the unconscious biasness of like, can we give this to you? Like, are you capable? And all of that
Mm.
starts to play on the psyche of, whether or not we're actually able to, to accomplish great and big things. And so I guess, and you speak around then the courage to come forward and overcoming the small self, and that for me is, it's I see it frequently. I see it in conversations that I have across the space. And I think there's a personal responsibility of women, and you speak around it, to kind of like come out and own your power and own yourself. So what are some of the permissions that you have had to give yourself to really step forward into this version of yourself that you have become and will continue to become? Because I think there's probably a lot of richness, because we're going to face it. We're going to continue to face it. So curious to hear, what
Yes.
are the permissions that you've allowed, that you've given, that you've granted along your journey?
Yeah. I think I've given myself, well, I know I've given myself permission to acknowledge my strengths, to
Mm,
acknowledge the work that I've done in the industry, in each of my job roles. And I've allowed myself to no longer see me as, what is the best word to use? It's not insignificant, but no longer see myself
mm,
as subordinate. And
mm.
that's not only in the managerial sense, but just in the technology space. There are titles and there are leaders in this space, but just because you're not holding a certain title doesn't mean that you're not really great at what you do. So I've allowed myself to acknowledge my skill, acknowledge my expertise, and not be afraid to speak about it. I used to run to leaders previously. I used to run to leaders to speak for me.
Mm,
I've had some really great leaders that I've worked with, who the choice was theirs. Are you going to advocate Sam or not? And I would be sitting patiently. Is this person going to give me an opportunity? What is this person going to say? I submitted my career and my future to the hands of another individual. And now I've given myself permission to take that back and walk my own journey. And I've given myself permission to fail. I'm okay with failing. I'm okay if the road is rugged. I'm okay with it. If I'm going to get hurt along the way, that's fine as well. But I'm owning it now, and it's me now. I'm no longer waiting on person A or person B, uh, if they're going to help me with this. What's happened because of this almost, change in perspective or change in life is that I now have certain leaders volunteering. Hey, Sam, we want to be part of your picture. Hey, Sam, we want to help you. Obviously, they're like, oh, yeah, thank you. Come along, like, please do. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Instead of me going and being like, this is what I can do. Will you please try and help me? And believing that I'm not capable of doing it myself. That person can. So those are some of the things that I've also given myself permission to be down sometimes, to feel sad about my journey not being easy, and not always trying to be strong, because we feel when you're female you mustn't show weakness, you mustn't show
mm,
emotion, you mustn't show that you're struggling. You always have to be going at it because you have to be, seen as a strong leader. Now I've given myself permission to not always be so strong. In fact, I've given myself permission to be more empathetic and to actually feel the emotions, because it's called being human. I don't mind doing that anymore. In doing that, I'm able to identify the people I work with. I'm able to look at these students as people and feel what they're feeling and know how to be able to help them. Because there were times people didn't see me as a human. It was like
Wow.
get the job done. So,
Mm,
yeah, a lot that had to be
mm,
unlearned, I think. Had to unlearn a
mm.
lot. I've watched leaders, whether it's in the technology space or just business in general, when we work in a company, even though you're in IT, you see other leaders as well. And you watch how they behave and you think this is you turn somebody into a role model. You're like, I really like the way this person conducts themselves, and I'm gonna be like that. That's how you get things done. As you grow up and you start coming into your own, you start realizing, I don't actually want to be that way, because doing that means offending others, tramping on other people's toes, putting others down just so that you could potentially move up. But it's a personal decision, and it took time for me, and a lot of time, a lot of reflection and introspection and time by myself
Beautiful.
to really know what it is that I want to who it is that I want to become.
Mm. It's so amazing. So I just want to kind of summarize a few of the key points there that I've heard that I've sort of taken out from that conversation. And I think what's so inspiring is you didn't leave it to someone else. Like you took part of the journey of owning your power and becoming a successful self sits and resides within you through the
Yes,
attributes of introspection, of self-awareness, of personal development, and your own realization. I guess if I had to summarize, and I was speaking about it the other day, in fact, just in a journey that I was on and speaking about it to an audience, and I was speaking around where is it that you undermine yourself? Where is it that you disown your own power? Where do you deny yourself? And so as you speak through some of the permissions and your empowerment, self-empowerment journey around actually, you know, I'm going to see the magnificence of who I am. I'm not going to be this submissive. I'm going to kind of grow into the internal success must match the external success. And I think that's an important message uh,
yes,
to be giving our young, up and coming, and just any age, in fact, women. I'm still learning it myself, but it's such an important and critical message. It's like it sounds to me like you became this version of yourself. You grew into this version. It was more the beingness that started coming into fruition. And dropping the external need to please, the external need for validation, the external need for approval, and
yes,
and that is just such a critical journey that's not found in books, you know, that you
yes,
speak around. So I don't know,
yes.
is there anything else? Does anything else kind of spring to mind as I kind of reflect that back to you?
No, 100% spot on. It's a journey with yourself. It's a journey with yourself. Um, I think if I had to touch lightly on something, and it's quite personal. You and I touched on it lightly when we just started speaking about spirituality,
Yes.
and unlearning a lot of things, and somewhere along the line you start questioning things that were taught to you about the way you should be, the way you should do things.
Mm,
Um, and once, I started thinking outside the box and questioning almost every single thing I was taught, from religion to the way women should behave, to the way we should dress, the way we should be, to the way we should code, the way we should write our comments, whatever it was. To an extent, there's a level of indoctrination that
mm,
we've been given, and things that we've learned and cast in stone as we grow. And it got to one point in time where I was like, what about unlearning all of this and exploring some of the
lovely.
more spiritual aspects of my life, and forgetting everything that's been told to me, and just deciding what I want to be, and listening, making myself quiet. We spoke about meditation as well, you know,
Yes.
just finding that quiet space, and listening to this inner voice that speaks to you, and finding that peace within with decisions that you make.
Mm,
And I've learned to trust that so much more. And I no longer feel the need to trust individuals as much. I've found that space where you're guided by some sort of higher power. People call it God, the universe, whatever you want to refer to it as. But there's this there's a good power that looks after all of us. I've got a lot of faith in God, but the way I listen to it now and let God speak to me differently and 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 hear a message slightly differently than I would previously has really helped me to go on this journey with a lot more confidence. And
Hmm.
it's an amazing journey to go on, but it's not always easy. And um, it might not always be welcome. It could become controversial, which I'm not even afraid of anymore, because we're all allowed to explore life
Hmm.
the way we want to, and it's something else we should not be afraid to do.
Yeah, and thanks for sort of just surfacing this component, spirituality, your relationship with God, source, your etc. Into the
Yeah,
space. I think it's such another critical piece that oftentimes we can lose our voice over. So much of what you've been describing in how you've come to be the success is almost like claiming back your voice, claiming back who
yeah,
you essentially are, and then I know for myself, and I'm not in the corporate space at the moment. However, I still work in the corporate space, but talking around spirituality and talking around the universe and that's an edgy topic. It's done behind
yeah,
closed doors. It's like you got to be in the closet with it. Yet,
yeah,
when you are talking with leaders behind closed doors, and in fact, I did an MBA a few years ago, and and part of it was to understand the ethos, which is the essence, the spiritual
yeah,
dynamic energy that really differentiates organizations. And it was wonderful to be behind closed doors in the conversations with very senior people and delve into this really pertinent topic and actually hear to what extent you're talking about that voice within and how important, and but yet out at the boardroom tables and the leadership tables we can't speak about it. So thank you for surfacing it and just like the importance of it in your life.